Hey everyone, welcome back to Topher Drives, where today we are back with my first ever car. For those of you who don't know, I have owned this 2009 Chevrolet Cobalt SS Turbo for the past 12 years. I showcased it a few months ago on the channel, and I promised you all we would be filming some more content on it. So today I'm going to show you what it's like to live with this thing, this minty 57,000 mile or so Cobalt SS Turbo. I'll give you a bit of a background on the car, a bit of a refresher, and then we're going to go out to Best Buy and buy a DJI Osmo 5 because I just filmed a night drive on the Civic Si, went up probably a few days before this video will go up, and I realized while editing that video that the night drive footage on the GoPro is terrible. So we're going to go and solve that with a new camera that is kind of known for having good low light performance, and we're going to take the Cobalt SS out about 20 miles or so to a Best Buy that actually has one in stock today, and we're going to get it. I also thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of compare this to some of the new hot compacts. I just spent some time, like I said, in the 2025 Honda Civic Si, and I just spent this entire week in the 2024 Hyundai Elantra N with a 6-speed manual, and I said in that video that that car reminded me a lot of this car because of its kind of old school rowdiness. And there goes another one of my cars driving by right now. My buddy Stu is driving my Roadster. But anyways, I thought it would be a good opportunity to just take this thing out on the road. Plus, it's 59 degrees, it's fall, we've got boost weather, so it should be a really good day to drive this car. If you don't know about this, this was the second generation kind of facelift of the Cobalt SS. The first ones were supercharged. This one is turbocharged. So this is powered by a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, and it makes 260 horsepower, 260 pound-feet of torque. Its front-wheel drive, a limited slip, was optional, and it was an option that was not selected on this car. The person who ordered mine brand new opted for a sunroof instead. It made it the same price as getting a limited slip. I don't know. At least they got victory red with the red interior. I guess that's all we can kind of ask for. Also, my friends at Kumo hooked me up with a set of Exta PS91s. We talked about these in the initial video on the channel. There will also be a video on the Topher kind of discussing these, but these are the best tires I've ever had on this car. They really bring out the true performance and lightness, the sub 3,000 pound nature of this thing. And yeah, I'm just a big fan. So speaking of living with it, let's talk about some of the kind of practical features of this car. I love that the trunk button is hidden in that little cubby to the left of the steering wheel. And while I use this trunk quite a bit while actually daily driving this car, right now the car cover is just in here, but we kind of move that. Well, shoot, we'll just take it out so you guys can visualize it a little bit better. We do actually have a pretty good sized trunk in this thing. We've got our Pioneer subwoofer in here as well. And if you lift up the trunk floor here, you can see we have a spare tire. Our battery also lives down there. Spare tire and jack. That was actually an optional extra. This car has two options, and it's the spare tire as well as the sunroof. Original MSRP somewhere around 24 grand. I actually have the window sticker. Can grab that out. Why not take a look at our original Monroney? $24,920 was the total price of this car. Final assembly in Lordstown, Ohio, delivered new to Pinegar Chevrolet Oldsmobile in Branson, Missouri. You can see our MPG 22 city, 30 highway. Over my entire course of ownership in this car, combined MPG was, I don't know, somewhere around 25, 26, and I would see some like up to 32 sometimes on road trips. This has been about as good of a first car experience as I could have asked for. Obviously, it's been 12 years since I obtained this. Let's go ahead and jump in. We'll fire it up, and we'll jump out onto the road. I'm actually going to go over to the warehouse and grab a dongle from Stu from the Roadster so we can test out this Pioneer sound system while we are on the road. Give you a quick look at the back seat. Did actually use the back seat a number of times, kind of carting friends around in high school and things, and always seemed to work out just fine. And the 2-liter comes to life. 57,172 miles. I actually leveled it up to 57,000 this year. We did a couple of videos in a row. Tedward shot this for his channel and spent a couple of weeks kind of daily driving this car, and it was so great. It was a throwback to high school, and then I drove the Elantra N, and I'm like, oh my god, I have to get the Cobalt SS back out. Pretty basic setup in here. Obviously not something that you would see in a new hot compact, but we just have a very simple CD player, radio. All of the SS's got this Pioneer sound system. We don't have automatic climate control, but we do at least have air conditioning in here. 5-speed manual. This is a short shifter, as they called it, different than you would get in the regular Chevrolet Cobalt base model. I spoke about that sunroof. Oh, why was that stuck? Probably because it hasn't been opened in forever. We have these really kind of rickety sun visors that always sound like they're going to break when you open up the mirrors. All right. Let's go ahead and pop over and grab my little aux dongle so we can test the Pioneer. But there's really nothing else to show you in the interior that I didn't show off in the initial video. And we'll kind of talk about comfort of these seats and everything and overall kind of ergonomics once we jump out onto the highway and see what it's like to live with this thing. The only modification done to this car is a K&N Typhoon cold air intake, because when you're a high schooler, nothing is more exciting than boost noises. I suppose if you're a car enthusiast high schooler, that is. There it is. All right, thieving this so we can do a sound system test. Actually, before we jump out onto the road, let's quickly show you this 2-liter and that cold air intake. Why not? One of the best things about the Cobalt SS is it has a hood strut. How many new modern hot compact cars have hood struts? I don't think any of them do. Anyways, there's that 2-liter Ecotec. We've got a fresh air filter on here. My buddy Keone from Cap's Garage kind of helped rehab this thing at the beginning of the season because it had been sitting for a couple of years without much use. So we brought it back to life. New air filter, oil change, all the fluid exchanges, brake fluid, new brakes all around. One last look at this awesome set of GM Performance bucket seats that were exclusive to the Cobalt SS and a very similar set in the HHR SS. Okay, for real this time, let's get out on the road and show you what this Cobalt SS is like to live with. Central locking happens at like 3 miles per hour. Beautiful fall day, the sun is out, the trees have all started to change color. We can make some sweet, sweet boost noises. Old school turbo noises. New cars, yes, they make turbo noises, but not like cars of this era, and even before. Cars of the 80s and 90s made some crazy noises. As far as manual transmissions go, this thing is pretty easy to drive. In fact, this is the car that I learned manual on as a 14-year-old, so it took a little bit of abuse from the start, but the car itself was a really good teacher. Very distinguishable grab point in the clutch. Need to recalibrate myself with this car, but it is easy to rev match and everything. Pedals are positioned decently for heel towing. And this honestly does still have modern levels of performance. The Elantra N that I've been living with this whole week only has like 19 more horsepower, I think, than this car. And it weighs more, so this feels just as fast as that Elantra N. Being that it's a 5-speed, the gears are a little bit longer. So that does make the Elantra N essentially, it makes it feel faster kind of through first and second, but once you're actually out doing kind of highway pulls with this, it feels pretty similar. Really good torque in 5th gear at highway speeds. We're gonna take this corner up here because I want to show you guys how agile this thing is. Oh, we're gonna have to redo it. That's okay. We'll get some heat in these tires first, and then we'll come through here and we'll take this corner at a pretty quick rate of speed. They're going wide, okay. You can change gears decently quick with this car. In fact, this actually had a no-lift shift feature from the factory. GM was experimenting with a lot of kind of performance-y tech. This had launch control as well. In fact, if we click the traction control button twice, I'm gonna wait till I'm stopped so you guys can see the screen here. It puts us into what's called competitive mode, and it'll prompt me to do a launch control. We're not gonna do one today, though we did do one in the other video. This is a quick car, even by today's standards. Let's go third gear. I think this torque can pull us out. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. 260 pound-feet of torque in a car that's under 3,000 pounds. Not to mention kind of prehistoric rear suspension setup with that solid rear axle. So it does sometimes cop a wheel. It's just so fun to throw this thing around. You don't get the best peace of mind safety-wise with this being essentially made out of tin or whatever GM was making cars out of in the 2000s, but whatever. I just love the noises it makes and the drama of the whole experience. It's so fun. All right, let's get out of this super loud section of highway. We'll get onto a normally graded area, and you'll be able to observe our NVH, not only of the car, but also of these Kumo Exta PS91 tires. Love the sound of that turbo spool. Yes. Okay. So a couple of things to talk about as far as actually daily driving this car on the highway. And the first thing is the ride. And this section of highway is actually a really good area to demonstrate that because it's essentially washboard. Whoever paved this section of highway deserves to have their highway paving license cut in half. But the ride on this car is a bit firm, and it is actually a bit crashy. This is something that automakers have kind of figured out and been able to fine-tune in modern day hot compacts like the Elantra N, the GR Corolla, the Golf GTI. They've been able to kind of develop them even further as daily drivers. Steering feel going down the highway, good. This car has electric power steering. We don't have hydraulic in here. But steering feel overall is pretty good. It's a very quick steering rack, as you can see. Very minimal movements of the steering wheel give the car major movements. I love that you're in boost at cruising speed, so you can just make turbo noises all day long. It's a bit loud, I'll admit. I mean, lots of just kind of scratchy nothingness materials in here that this was kind of a rough era for American cars as far as materials go. Not a lot of quality things being used around this time. Very just, you know, this is kind of like the plastic you'd find on a lunchbox or something. It's just very just disposable. I mean, it probably cost them like 10 cents to mold this dashboard. But then it's kind of the same formula that you see in the Elantra N, because all of the things that are still base model Cobalt, base model Elantra, not very high quality items, but the things that they added to make this an SS, the performance variant, like these seats, very high quality. This beautiful leather wrapped steering wheel with white stitching has held up very nicely. It's still in great shape. this pillar-mounted boost gauge, which I think is just fantastic. They were able to opt for a one that was a screen. You could kind of set different functions, but I like this very simple, like Fast and Furious era aftermarket style boost gauge. And it's an Autometer brand. We do have cruise control in here. Very simple to engage that. There's a button that actually clicks in on the left side of the steering wheel. So super easy to operate that. Hello, officer. You know, the entire time I drove this car, I was never pulled over a single time, ever. And then I went and bought a 1989 BMW 735i that was beige, and I got pulled over the first day. So that goes to show, it doesn't matter what sort of car you're driving, it matters what you are doing in the car. Here at highway speeds, revved just under 3,000 RPM. I always thought this car would benefit from a 6th gear. 2009 was still kind of in the era where things had 5 speeds. It kind of became normal in the 20-teens for everything to have a 6-speed kind of no matter what it was. Really wish we weren't hogging the left lane today. We really can't blame him, folks. We really can't blame him. Let's take this cloverleaf. Oh, nobody in front of us. I am excited. Drop down to 4th. Should have some good heat in these tires at this point. Oh yeah. Able to beautifully power out. Being that this isn't obviously its own bespoke chassis, the Chevy Cobalt existed outside of the SS, it's pretty dialed in. There's some really nice rotation. I mean, I hadn't even met the limit of these tires either on that entrance ramp, so it's just a lot of fun, this car. I think the best thing about this is it just takes me back to high school. Simpler times, nothing to worry about. Just shift gears, make boost noises, go to the movies, go to Woodward, show up late to school.
Told you to walk away. That was my first and last mistake. I blew without your face. But what can I do? 'Cause I'm just a sinking ship, and you're just a pair of lips that I've lost in the moment. All I want is for you to come back. Now I'm caught in the middle of life, and with me, I need you to
Honestly, for 2009, this is an incredibly impressive sound system, especially for a car that was 24 grand, brand new. I mean, this is up to par with a lot of systems that you get in cars in this segment today, like the Harman Kardon and the Kia Forte. Even the Bose and the Elantra N that I'm driving right now doesn't really sound a ton better than this. The only place where this sound system really lacks is in the complexity otherwise, like the power, having that sub in the trunk, plenty powerful, and it was plenty good for me when I was in high school. So I kind of wanted to talk about today, like, does it make sense to go and buy a brand new hot compact when there are still plenty of other kind of minty examples of cars like this from 10, 15 years ago on the market that performance-wise do pretty much the same thing? Obviously, creature comforts like Apple CarPlay and seats that are a bit more supportive and ride quality that's a bit more dialed in, those are all things that you're going to see from new cars. But if you're somebody that doesn't really care about that, you could go and find yourself, if you're lucky, a Cobalt SS, but like a Mark 6 GTI or a Focus ST from 2013 or a Fiesta ST. I mean, these are all still fantastic options for daily drivers. Unfortunately, Cobalt SSs like this don't really exist anymore. And I was the weird kid that garaged this constantly. I never drove it in winter. I mean, 57,000 miles. When I bought it, it had 29,000 on it. So in 12 years, I've only added just under 30,000 miles on this car. It was not a ton of use. Honestly, the most miles it saw was driving back and forth to college, which was 2 hours north of my parents' house. So a lot of highway miles on this car. Probably 10,000 of them were just going back and forth to school. Didn't really drive a ton in high school because I had a Ford Probe that was my daily driver. Europeans watching this, I wish us Americans had as much discipline while driving. It just does not happen over here, unfortunately. As far as commuting goes, it is at least entertaining. You won't be comfortable during your commute, but you will be entertained, and being entertained just makes it go by faster. An example like this in today's market is probably going to set you back around $15,000, and that is just simply because they don't exist anymore. I mean, when's the last time you saw a Cobalt SS Turbo in nice condition? I mean, all of them that you see are kind of ratty and making 500 horsepower because these LNFs, you were able to push an incredible amount of power out of them. But with that comes reliability issues, and overall they just kind of become clapped after a certain amount of time. So you can find them, they're rusty, they're clapped, they're modified. Ones like this, they simply do not exist anymore. All right, let's go secure us a DJI Osmo Action 5. Remember the last time I was at this Best Buy, but the one local to me did not have the camera that I wanted, so out to Novi we had to come. But anyways, we've made it. Let's get the Cobalt SS parked up, which I'm going to do in the back of the parking lot because I don't want anybody to touch my precious car. Let's just stick it over here, why not? Give you guys an idea for placing in the spot. You can hear my rear brake pads making a racket there. Cool. Steering weight is pretty nice. I mean, with this having electric power steering, it doesn't really feel that much different than modern cars in this class. This car did have its ignition switch recall done, but I do still have my fob is on a dongle so I can detach it. While this is a small car, you got to be careful with these doors because you can see when you open them, I mean, this is a huge door. It goes halfway into the spot next to it. So you definitely have to make sure that your passenger is paying attention before they swing that massive door open. But otherwise, you know, compact car fits in the spot just fine. Well, I've escaped Best Buy without purchasing their credit card, but I did purchase the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro, so night drives will no longer be grainy. This is all I bought, so we don't really need to try out any cargo space or anything like that, but I can show you functions of the key fob while we're out here. You can hold this, that'll pop the trunk. Otherwise, you can stick the key in that little hole there and pop it. Cargo net, I mean, I showed you the trunk at the beginning, so plenty of room for groceries and things like that if you were to be shopping with this car. Unlock button there on the key fob, that'll unlock the driver's door. Hit it again, and it'll unlock the passenger door as well. I don't think I've ever put batteries in these key fobs, so they're probably still on the original batteries from 2009 if I had to guess. As far as where to put this camera so it doesn't roll around, I'm sure we can find somewhere. Might just stick it in the door pocket over there. Yeah, that works. Okay, cool. And I put the key back in my pocket because I'm so used to cars with push button starts that I don't even think about sticking a key in an ignition anymore. How sad is that? Actually, before we jump on the highway, I want to top this up with some fresh fuel, kind of dilute this gas that's probably like 6 months old. Just put some fresh in here. Why not? We're right next to a gas station, we may as well. And this is the old school way of putting fuel in a car. We don't have any sort of thing we need to pop the fuel filler. In fact, this one does not even lock. You can just walk right up to any Chevy Cobalt, open the fuel door, and open the fuel cap. Premium fuel recommended, and throughout my ownership of this car, I have only run 93 octane. So at this point, this car is used to 93, so we're going to continue putting 93 in it. Do a bit of a trip reset here. Let's reset our average MPG and see how we do on the way home. Zero that out. Cool. Also, TPMS monitoring on this car. So that's nice for 2009. Let's go ahead and talk about kind of like the overall ergonomics of this cabin, the seating position, all of that stuff. Now being a 26-year-old sitting in this seat that I sat in all the time as a teenager without any problem whatsoever, it's a little bit of an eye-opener to how much our bodies change from being a teenager to being a 20-something. Now that I've been in it here for about an hour, it is starting to weigh on me a bit. There is no lumbar adjustment to this seat whatsoever, which means the backrest is kind of just like a church pew. It's very stiff, and yeah, there's really no adjustment. You can make the seat go up, down, you can move the backrest, and obviously back and forth, but that is all it is with the manual seat in this Cobalt SS. Otherwise, though, beyond the quite stiff seat in this car, overall ergonomics in here, kind of where you're putting your extremities, your arms, seating position, it's okay. The elbow rest on the left-hand side, obviously in driving this car for 30,000 miles, quite a lot of resting my elbow like this going down the highway, and it does get a bit uncomfortable after a while. There is some padding, actually, surprisingly. There's a bit of padding on this red section of the door panel, but it's not enough to kind of pad you for more than maybe an hour. You start to get a bit uncomfortable. Additionally, there just isn't a center console in this car, which means your right arm really has nowhere to rest at all. Some Cobalts were optioned with center consoles, but I don't think I've ever seen an SS with a center console. I mean, you could probably pull one out of a junkyard, out of a different trim, and put it in here, but then I think with the way this shifter is positioned, you would just be smashing your elbow into the center console every time you went to change gear. So probably not the best designed layout for an interior storage compartment to exist. But you do have two cup holders in front of the shifter, which means you aren't shifting into cup holders like you would in the new Toyota Supra. And seating position is nice. I mean, you can see plenty out of this car. The back window is huge. It's kind of just like a big fishbowl in here, so your overall visibility out of it is no problem at all. Getting ready to jump off the highway here. It looks like we're going to peak at 29 mpg, so just 1 mpg below the EPA rating of 30 mpg. Looks like we're actually going to crest 30 mpg on the decel. There it is on the exit. 30 mpg. Check it out. We'll do a bit of city driving here to wrap it up. You drive the new cars that, yes, straight line performance wise are still quite similar, but then you get in something like this and it's just that much more raw and that much more fun. So if you're somebody that's in the market for a brand new hot compact and you don't necessarily care about technology, maybe take a look at something a bit older, because they are a ton of fun. And reliability wise, you know, granted 30,000 miles in 12 years is not normal, I understand that, but reliability wise this car has been great. It threw a check engine light one time in my entire ownership for like a cylinder 3 misfire. This was probably 20,000 miles ago, long time ago. We cleared the light and it never came back. I think that's the only thing this car has ever really played up on. I know these do have like timing chain issues. I think that happens once you kind of get higher with the miles. Otherwise though, I don't think this has really done anything. I've had to put sway bar links on it. I've had to put brakes on it 1.5 times. Just, you know, normal maintenance with this car. Change the oil, change the brake fluid. That's really been it. And that is just about going to wrap it up for us on the Cobalt SS Turbo. I'm glad we got to do one more video on this car. Maybe we'll do a night drive or something with the DJI, but at least we got this taken before this car goes to hibernate for winter. But it's always fun to get this car out and relive my youth a bit, and it's even more fun to take you guys along with me and show you what this car is like. All right. Well, let's park up next to the Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro that I'll be driving this week. Look forward to a video on that. Let's shut it off. We'll give you one last look at this Cobalt. I could stare at it all day, but you know. Ooh, that is a bright white. I think they call that ice cap. Ooh, red interior too. All right, save that for another video. Cool guys, well thank you again so much for watching. If you have any questions about the Cobalt SS, please sound off in the comments. Well, that'll be it for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Take care.